Hello, this is Prescott with Designs by Prescott, and I am here with a video of how I go about my process of coloring non-destructively in Procreate. And what I mean by non-destructively is I use the layers to have my line work separate from my color layer so that it's easier to change colors much faster without having to worry about erasing. So let's get right into it. And this is the color palette down the bottom right that we'll be using, and we'll be making a simple rose today. So to start off, we're going to bring our line layer up, and we're just going to hide our draft layer. So in the line reference, you're going to notice is right below lines, and what that means, if you click this, there's several different things you can click. You can mask, alpha lock, clear, fill layer. At the bottom, reference means that if you select an area of this, like this, if you click on this, make sure automatic is selected, and go to a different layer, for example, our color layer, click this, it automatically selects this area, and you can put whatever color you want in there. Double tap with 2 fingers. So if you just drag this, it only puts it in that area right there. So that's what we're going to do for starters to put the color in the petals. So we're going to take this, oops, and we're going to select the petals, not that one, all these little ones. Oop. Sometimes you have a problem. So some areas are more sensitive than others. So let's start in the center. All right. And if you hit the brush and you take a finger and you press it gently on the color that you want and hold it, it will pop up with this. So now that's right here. Hold, and you can drag, and you can drop it right in there. This is a very fast and efficient way of filling. Oops. Sometimes you'll accidentally fill a line, and that makes everything look really fuzzy, and you don't want to do that. Alright, so there's the inside. Click it again to wipe it. And let's bring our sensitivity back up as far as it will go without filling everything. Oops. Alright. Alright, so some of these are a little more sensitive than others, so we're going to come back to them. Alright. Now let's move on to the leaves. Alright. And, oops. Hit the paintbrush, and we're going to hold our finger on the green to select that color. And just like the other ones, just drag and put them in place. And I know those leaves look a little flat and boring, so if I turn on another layer titled Details, I have how I like my details in my leaves, just simple curved lines. So my style is more closely to neo-traditional tattoos or your traditional tattoos. So there's kind of like a method called spit shading. And as you can see, my brushes that I'm using in this are kind of felty. I have a brush set from Tattoo Smart. I believe it's right here. So watercolor flash. It's Tattoo Smart produces several different kinds of brush sets for Procreate that can be used in Photoshop as well. And I'm not sponsored by them. I just really like their products. They're really nice. They're high quality, and they're created by the tattooers themselves, so they know exactly what they want. Alright, so we're going to go back, make sure we're on our color layer. We are. We're going to select these 2 parts and hit the brush and hold our finger on the yellow. And this is the color we want the tips of our petals to be. So, there. First part done. This is our flat color layer. Now, we need to add some shading. So, we're going to go up to layer called darks, and this is where we're going to click on this layer right here, hit the M, and it says multiply. So that's very important so that it's not a flat heavy color. It's going through the layer, and it kind of adds a really nice hinted, like you have your hues. So like if you mix like a black with a color, you get your different hues, and if you mix white with a color, you get your different tints. So we're going to go make sure this layer has the M, it's on darks, and we're going to go and we're going to select just these three parts right here for the center part of the flower, and hit the paintbrush, and we're going to highlight the second from the left, and we're going to turn down the opacity on our brush. We're going to make sure we have the watercolor or a soft one. So if you just got Procreate, you can go into airbrushing and you can get your soft brush. Oops, you don't want that. Click on that and you can go over it. Make sure you have your opacity turned way down and turn the brush up to right about there. There you go. So just kind of work on this, kind of keep layering it up. You want it nice and light so that you can build a nice base. All right. So there you are. Okay, now select. I usually go single petals so that I have more control over how the shadow looks on it. So you just kind of start right around, like have your pencil at about the top of the bulb and just kind of slowly start to come down. And the size of the brush is very large, so you have a really spread out kind of fill. All right, there you go. And I know this is kind of uneven, but the point of this is to show you the process, and I'm sure most of you understand the basics of shading. I can make another video for good shading techniques in Procreate in the future, but I'm just trying to show the process over the practice. So let's go back, get our selection tool, and hit another point, and just have our pencil on the left side of the flower, and just gently start coloring. Okay, and then get the last part. And I don't really go all the way up to the top. This one, I just kind of let the bottom get a little dark so there's a bit of light at the tip of it. All right, now the last one. So two things. We're going to color this a yellow later so that it matches the other two. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a significantly smaller brush and get the opacity much lower. I got about 7%. And maybe bring it up just a little bit, about 10%. There you go. So there's kind of some depth right there with that technique, and we don't need to have it perfect. All right, so there's our darks right there. You have some shadows. We already got some depth. Now, let's go back to our flat color. We're going to select this, and we're going to go to a different brush. So let's get a medium airbrush. Yeah, there you are. So we're just going to kind of airbrush this up. So these are sensitive to pressure. So right there, just kind of had it blend into that and push too hard on the end. When I put brushing, I start off with heavy pressure and I let up. So you have those nice tapered ends. All right, next part. So we need to create some highlights. So we go up to this one. We make sure we have overlay on 100%. And then we select a white. So now there's two parts to our highlights. One, we're going to have a much like a tougher brush. We're going to have a technical pen. So I have this one modified. I just copied the other pen, the technical pen, and I brought the streamline close to 90. Usually I round it to 93%. And then I also made it slightly bigger. So in the size. So that when you're brushing, it's not as, here, I'll just show you. So you don't have as thin of a tip. So if you go back, get my other one, there, it's much broader. So I'm gonna bring this up, bring this down, there. So we're about, let's just do 50%. So what we're going to do for starters is we're going to make sure we're on highlights. We got our selection tool, and we're going to start with this one. Zoom in a little bit. And you just kind of follow the edge. It's okay if you don't get it perfect the first time. Actually, yes, that is important that you do get it, because with opacity, it gives you the ability to bring your, actually, let's full opacity, and we can drop the opacity of the whole layer so that it matches. So yes, this is going to look really intense, but we can do everything in as many strokes as we want. Okay. Alright, then when you come into these finer ones, we can make our brush a little bit smaller, let's do 4%. Alright, now we're just going to select 2 at a time, because we're just going to do the very edges. And we don't even need to do all of them, just the kind of tips, just to accent them. There we are. Kind of add a tapered line. There we go. Now we need to go inside and do the... We're not going to do all of them. We're going to do every other one so that they kind of have a line of depth in them. Alright. And... oops. There we go. And then of course, this one right here, but we're just going to emphasize the light part. Oops. There we go. Alright, so we got our highlights, and now what we do is we click on this, we stay on the highlight layer, and we go back to our airbrush, get the soft airbrush, and now we're going to select the leaves, and we're going to add some highlights to the center of the leaves. So this is a little too light of opacity. We're going to add some pressure to the airbrush so we get a nice steady line. And then kind of taper off. Actually, let's bring this up a little bit. Bring the opacity down. Yeah, that right there. Just kind of like tap a little bit and just do some little lines and they'll build up to a nice color. Alright, so now that we have some depth to our rows, now we gotta bring some attention to our leaves. So the main part is, my style, I like to do the traditional where you have the black for the shading and then a kind of like almost erased part for the highlight. So how to do that is you make sure you have your soft brush selected. If you hold your eraser, it changes it to the same brush that your drawing brush was on. So go to the color and we're going to select this part and we're just going to just take some parts off. There you go. And you just do that for each part as much as you want. The next part, we're going to go to black paint, and we're going to have, as expected, a flat black paint. Highlight right there. And just fill these. Okay, so then the next part, you get your eraser tool out. Make sure you're on black paint. And we're going to go back and we're going to select each part again. Oops, wrong one. Alright. Just kind of chip away at it. Don't forget to mess with your opacity sometimes just to give it a nice smooth look. Alright, just kind of chipping through this one. Alright. So sometimes what you might want to do with this layer is you click on that M and you drop the opacity down just a little bit. So, there you go. Click on that, bring that apart. So now you have some shading to the leaves and some highlights to it. Alright. So now we're just about done, and the next part that I'm going to do is you go to your line reference and drag it over to your right, to your left I mean, hit duplicate. Now bring this up to the top, there. Now you don't have any of those rough ragged edges. And there you go. That is how I do my whole coloring process, and I can go through and I can just as easily say I want to have a different color rows. So I go back to here, select that, and say I want a dark purple. Drag that over here. There you go. We're all set. We can start making purple roses. So, there you go. That's my process, and thank you for following along with me. And I will have the lines in the description down below, so you can download this. You can follow along if you want. So thank you very much, and I will be uploading content 3 times a week, and it will be ranging from starter tips for Procreate, some streamlined ideas for Illustrator that helps you work faster, so that if you have a design that you're working on, how to work faster so you can use it more effectively and more efficiently. So till then, thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you can see my content as fast as it's uploaded.